T-minus 3 days until beta week 2. Welcome back to Call of Duty World War II on BlackTideTV. In today's video, we'll be discussing weapon balance and variety in the upcoming Call of Duty game. When I had first heard of Call of Duty World War II's existence, I was initially very concerned in terms of weapon variety for the game going forward. I'm not the biggest fan, admittedly, of the World War II setting for first-person shooters. I've always found first-person shooters set during realistic time periods to be very restrictive. You have to make your games, at least at launch, grounded in reality. Now, of course, with this being Call of Duty, with this being Activision, I can assume that we're going to have weapons and weapon variants and all kinds of ridiculous nonsense added to supply drops post-launch. But it's very important that at launch you have a very realistic library of weapons. And World War II doesn't really provide you with all of that much variety. A lot of the weapons, while there were a lot of different weapons, were very similar in terms of how they worked, in terms of how they looked. All of the weapons were very, very similar in World War II as compared to a modern or a futuristic game where they can make up their own weapons, or a modern game as there are a ton of different weapons today. But I was very concerned for the weapon variety in this game, and I was very pleasantly surprised when I got into this beta. There were a very few amount of weapons from the full official game in the beta. I think there were 4 SMGs, this is week 1 of course, 4 SMGs, 3 assault rifles, 2 sniper rifles, 3 LMGs, a couple pistols. Very limited in terms of each weapon class, like 3 or 4 max in each weapon class. And yet all of the weapons felt incredibly different. In terms of sniper rifles, we had a semi-automatic that was a 2-shot kill. We had a bolt action. In terms of assault rifles, we had a very accurate fully automatic. We had a more standard issue kind of fully automatic. And then we had the M1 Garand, which is of course to be expected in the World War II setting. In terms of SMGs, we had a lot of variety in fire rate and damage and range and just how they moved when they were being fired. And it made me really happy to see that all of these weapons were carefully designed to be different from one another so that we as fans can play the game and we can pick a specific weapon and we can main that weapon and grow to appreciate the weapon and be better with it than anyone else if you practice enough with said specific weapon. I love that there's so many different weapons and weapon styles in the game already. And as I've said, this is a very small fraction of the total weapons in the game. I've come to a little bit of a conclusion here in that there are going to be a shit ton of guns in this game, which is insanity. Like SMGs, for example, there are already 4 in the game. There is the Grease Gun, there's the PPSH, the Type 100, and the WWII. There's also going to be the MP40, the Tommy Gun, and the Sten. All 3 of those have been confirmed. That's 7 SMGs. That's a lot of weapons to be in the game at launch, which is incredible. In terms of sniper rifles, we were only granted the access to 2 sniper rifles in the beta. That would be the Commonwealth and the Carabin, I think it was called, which are 2 random snipers that I've never even heard of. Meanwhile, there are 3 snipers that come to mind that should be in every World War II game. That's the Springfield, the Kar 98K, and the Mosin Nagant. So that's 5 sniper rifles. That's a pretty good number for snipers in terms of recent Call of Duty games, which have been really stinging out on base in-game weapons. If you haven't noticed, Infinite Warfare Black Ops 3, they featured very little amounts of weapons in each of their weapon classes at launch, with DLC weapons coming later to fill out their wheelhouses. So it's incredible to see that there are a ton of weapons going to be in this game. There's a bunch of assault rifles being added. I believe weekend 2 of the beta is going to go up to 40 levels, and we're going to have access to a whole bunch of other new weapons. So I'm very excited for that, but that doesn't even give you access to the classified weapons. Yes, there are 5 classified weapons in the game so far for each of the divisions. Now, unfortunately, in the beta, you could not unlock these classified weapons. They unlock at rank 5 of each individual division. You could only rank up to rank 4 in the divisions in the beta. But each of the divisions comes with a classified weapon, which they've said to be a historically accurate, very recognizable weapon in each of the cases. So there's a classified SMG, a classified assault rifle, LMG, sniper rifle, and shotgun. So that's 5 more weapons that are going to be on top of everything else that's going to be added to this game. I'm just very excited to see all of the weapons in this game. This might be the largest roster of weapons that we've seen in a Call of Duty game in quite some time, excluding variants. And now, of course, there's also some weapon balance to be discussed in this video. How do the weapons feel? What's the meta? Obviously, the meta is the SMGs. Now, with most Call of Duty games, it comes up to, is it an assault rifle game? Is it an SMG game? That's basically what every Call of Duty game boils down to. There's usually one of those two weapon classes that takes the cake, that's the best in the game. I really want for 1 year for the LMGs to be the best. Just randomly throw it out there, make the LMGs the best weapon class in the game, and make everyone use LMGs for a change. It would just completely change up the entire name of the game, but SMGs, assault rifles, are always the go-to weapons, and those are the two that often take the cake for Call of Duty games. In World War II, that is currently the SMGs. Not quite firmly, I wouldn't say the SMGs are absolutely 100% unequivocally the best, as the STG, which is an assault rifle, is incredibly powerful. It's like a laser cannon, which is kind of strange because the STG in every other iteration of a Call of Duty game has been very inaccurate, pretty bad. In this game, it's absolute god mode. The M1 is a 2-shot kill, so it's a very powerful assault rifle that you can spam. And then the first assault rifle, I'm not the biggest fan of I think it's the M1941. But the assault rifles are okay in terms of what we have so far, but the SMGs blow them out of the water in terms of currently. And then we still have those 3 best SMGs coming, the Sten, the MP40, the Tommy gun. Those are like the 3 big SMGs in World War II. So I think this game is going to be an SMG game, despite the maps not really being the best laid out for SMGs. But keep that in mind. If you're going to be playing in Beta Week 2, try out the SMGs. They're pretty much the best weapon class in the game. In terms of weapon classes that need to be buffed, in my opinion, the shotguns, which I discussed yesterday, I'll link yesterday's video where I talked about incendiary rounds and shotguns in the description down below. Shotguns need a buff. They need to be getting 1-shot kills at a longer range because the maps aren't laid out for shotguns. LMGs, I said that I want a game that has the LMGs as the best. That doesn't even come into, that's not even a concern for this game because the LMGs are so bad in Call of Duty World War II. I think the developers were scared because the LMGs traditionally in World War II would have been the best weapons because you could just stack up and you could just pour lead down range and just drop everybody in front of you. I think the developers were scared of making the LMGs too powerful, and so they dialed them back. They dialed them back too far. The LMGs need a serious buff. And the handguns, the pistols, need a buff as well. They're not that great. I want to say there's no aim assist on the pistols because it seems very hard to hit targets with them. And then when you do hit targets, you're doing next to no damage. So the pistols could use a buff as well. But that is basically all I have to say about the weapons, the weapon variety, the weapon balance of Call of Duty World War II. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Hit the like button and subscribe. And I'll catch you guys on the next video.